They had to physically go, travel by road, by land, by sea, to get to all these different places to basically push the word out. But what now it's a time where you can do a video and then upload it in a matter of minutes, and that can be seen in Spain. It can be seen in Australia. It can be seen in China. It can be seen in America. It can be seen in Hawaii. You can see it in Brazil. Anywhere on the earth, you can basically see the truth, and that's how the word's gone out, man. The word's gone out abroad. It's and that needed to happen through the Spirit. Because what you've had the scattering as well. You go to Deuteronomy 64, Deuteronomy 28:64. Jake needs to be scattered, but then what? Also the gathering. Basically, the elect being woken up to who they are all over the earth. Like back during it's like Timothy, back during when the Acts of the Apostles, time of the Acts, it was what they had to physically go to these locations. But now it's like what the Spirit can work with a man through what you jump on the videos. The Spirit works with you, and then what you gain understanding, man. That's how yeah, that's how it goes. Because what is it? It says, well, verse 2, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up. Yeah, that's it. Even with this society, there was a time for it to be built up. You know, what Esau deifies as what manifest destiny. When his ancestors came over and basically stole the different the Americas, man, and then built up America, that whole system through what? The sword. These things, there was that time for it to be built up, but also there's a time for it to be broken down, and that's what people don't like. There's the two sides of the coin, and hey, just as Esau had his time to be brought up, it's time to go down. It's the same thing. You go back. This is the second leg of the Roman Empire. Why is it the second leg? Because Rome fell. Rome had its time in the sun, and then it done. Now it's some desolate ruins that you can go and explore. But you know, people have somehow, you know, hoodwinked themselves into believing that this present system, this present rulership, is just going to go on forever. There's going to be no end to it, which don't make no sense. Like I read earlier, the bounds have been set. It says a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. Yeah, time to social distance. Fuck yeah. A time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. Yeah, a time of war and a time of peace. Because that's the thing, is them guys in Syria that were chilling like villains, and then what's his name decided to just carpet bomb them, man. Joe Biden was like, you know, he's got in office. It's the tradition, man. If you ain't bombing Syria, are you even a US president? No. But yeah, a time of love and a time of hate as well. Because that's for Esau. That's another part of why he's so upset. Malachi 1 and 2 says, I have loved you, saith Yahweh, yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith Yahweh? Yet I loved Jacob, and I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Yeah. Because, hey, that's the thing. Is Israel has also fallen short, man, and basically done actions worthy of not receiving salvation. That's known. But what is one vessel was allowed mercy in Israel, and the other vessel wasn't in Esau. Because even with Esau, this guy ain't got no mercy in him, man. This guy, when you deal with Al from the jump, man, when he first he sold his birthright, then afterwards when he found out that Jacob had basically what's the word? Usurped the blessing. There's a specific word. I can't. It's there, but it's not there. But yeah, when Esau basically found out what he'd lost a blessing, he was like, "Yo, as soon as I'm finished mourning my father, I'm gonna put man to death." That's the spirit that he was in. So this guy, where's the mercy? This guy, that's why it's Esau was the vessel wherein he's basically gonna have no mercy handling him, man. He's the only, it says what in the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, they know he's the only neighbor of the Israelites that was promised no form of mercy, man. That's another reason why Esau's run away from that Edomite identity, man. He's become, white, American, European, all these different terms. Even when he came as a Greeks, Macedonians, Greeks, those weren't the terms. Those guys are Edomites, man. It says what? Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down. They shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom Yahweh hath indignation forever. Yeah. So with Esau, what it's cold and plain, man. This guy is gonna get no mercy. And that's that time we're in. We're in a time where mercy's gone out the window. Now is the time of that grand judgment, man. That's why as people are getting, overwhelmed by what do you call it, man? By this situation here, this thing that's going round, this whole circumstance, and the lockdown. People are already at their wits' end, man. People are already losing it. They can't have a summer holiday. They're not going to make it. But they don't realize it's they ain't gonna make it. But what? They don't realize there's worse things to come, man. There's a lot worse things to come. Back in Revelation 11. Oh wait. Okay, yeah. Revelation 11:11. And after 3 days and a half, the Spirit of life and the Most High entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. Yeah, fear. Because why as well? Because Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. That's the other reason why. These elites, they're essentially aware. They're aware that if Jake rises up, it's a wrap for these guys. This is why they've been doing the utmost to try and frustrate the word, which is something you can't do. It can't be achieved. It can't be attained. Because why? As far as no matter how much Esau tries, this word's gonna go out, man. This is a thing that's backed by Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. This is set up by him, and that's the marker essentially of what what's gonna achieve nothing, and what's gonna achieve that which that which it desires to accomplish, man. Because that's the same thing. You go to Acts, they mention what if this basically if this thing be of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, you can't do anything against him. And that's what Esau's been upset, because he basically had that as the Romans and his present system. This current system, it until the Lord gives the green light, it can't come to an end. But once that green light's given, it's over. It's a wrap. And that's what these guys are trying to war against, man. They're basically trying to these elites are trying to take their destiny into their own hands. But that's something that can't be attained, man. We're basically we follow instructions, man. We're programmed with what we're gonna do, man. That's why Esau can't go against his nature as a wicked, and then Jake as well. It's like for the elect, they're not gonna be moved from their path. They're gonna follow through. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. Yeah. So Jake basically getting saved, man. It's going to be through them chariots, which is another thing. That's something you've had over the course, I think, last year. What was it this year? They had the big reveal of all the they declassified a lot of the basically UFO sightings, as Esau called it, UFO sightings. But it's what, the chariots of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Okay, let's probably check that anyway. A lot of them UFO sightings. But what, these things, those were declassified, then all of a sudden people were saying that you had stories coming out about how they're in touch with like an alien federation and blah blah blah. No, but that's just the that's the bones that you gotta pick out. Because as far as the chariots are out there, they're doing the bidding of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. But what the purpose they're for is what? It says, I'll read it again. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. It's going to be the method of how Israel's saved. And Israel's salvation is what? Like I just said, Jacob is the beginning of it, followeth, man. That's the end of this place. Which is why onto Esau, that's a curse. Because he desires the continuation, essentially for this present system, to continue forever. Which that's no system done that before, man. It just can't work. The way the system is even run is a completely unsustainable method, man. Like the monetary system, you had what the U.S. National debt hitting records, man, adding trillions on easy. You had Joe Biden put through like 1.7 trillion in spending. Then you got plans for like another 3 trillion in spending. And it's just like, how is this meant to be sustainable? How the hell where's the method of paying these things back? How is the economy not gonna go for a huge collapse when you're playing with it in the same way that happened in previous systems, where it just completely resulted in their destruction, man? That's the same thing Rome did, man. Cheapening, lessening the worth of their currency, man. Alongside over-expansion, alongside a lot of things, same things happening as well in present times, man. So this is what Zechariah 5:1. Then I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll. And he said unto me, what seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof 10 cubits. Then said he unto me, this is a curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. Yeah, it's a curse. Because for us, it's a blessing. Because why? We're looking to it for salvation, man. That's why you have the what is it? Swing low, sweet chariot. Because why? Those chariots, the chariots of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, that's nothing but good news for the elect and the 1/3, man. Nothing but good news. But for Esau and for the people who are basically invested in the system, that's a complete opposite. It's a curse. They're looking at it in terror. This is a curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off as on this side according to it, and everyone that sweareth shall be cut off as on that side according to it. Yeah. So these criminals, Esau knows. And as well, this is the thing, is what they released is only a small amount. There's way more UFO sightings, and they continue to happen, man. You had multiple times with the International Space Station. They have a camera on there where it's essentially live streamed non-stop. And that live stream, there's multiple times where something will show up, and then you have people that kind of log these things and say, hey, was a UFO sighted? Then they'll just lock off the stream. And otherwise, that stream's on 24/7. So why? It's because these things, Esau knows what it is. He doesn't want the truth going out. He's basically using disinformation. And that's why Hollywood comes in as well. Because when it comes to the chariots, whenever they do alien invasions, it's always like, oh, some aliens come with some different technology. They're just coming to look and conquer and take over the earth. And then what? They're looking to conquer and take over the earth. And then what? It's the great American military is just so great and so strong and so unbreakable that they're able to even beat aliens that can travel through space, shoot giant laser beams and all this shit, just because they used an Apple Mac virus, man. But that's what it is. It's propaganda. It's basically preparing people's minds, essentially poisoning them against it and keeping them invested in this system. Because that's all that Hollywood's really done is pushed out propaganda for the American way of life, man. Even when you have movies that are meant to be critiques of how the system runs, they're still it's essentially like, oh, we can just make this system better. It's never a thing like, yo, nah, this thing's a wrap. We tried it, we had a good run, but it's a wrap. Nah, it's always what about essentially, we could, it's not perfect, but it's the best we can do. Like, this system's meant to have been the most advanced, the greatest, but what? No, it's completely backwards. And that's why what? Judgment, man. Same as in Egypt, man. Go back to Egypt again, it's like, them men were, pharaohs having sex with their mother and all that. Them guys were doing all kinds of abominable things, man. They're completely heathenish customs. That's why it's ain't no one looking to that's the thing is, you got them Jake still about that whole going back to Egypt. But what it's in reality, yeah, the Jake's basically in that spirit of what, going back to Egypt. But then what? They don't really, like, I'm talking about in the modern time now, but they don't really know what the hell was going down, man. How completely off these guys were going, man. What these guys were worshipping, man. Complete and total madness. And that again is what you got. Even now, you got a lot of Jake getting into witchcraft, getting into judge, because that's something that Jake's done for the longest, but now they're just kind of broadcasting, man. These guys, Jake is going completely off. But it's why? It's because we're in that time of the end. Everything is getting turned up to 11. Now it's really a time where you turn the news on, there's almost too much happening. Like where before you might just turn on the news and there ain't really nothing going on. There's no real global conflicts. You haven't really got any big geopolitical moves happening. You have even now in the States they're what the fucking Panama Canal, which is one of the top trading routes through the US. It's like I think it's multiple days of sailing to get round the Panama Canal otherwise. So that being down is a huge detriment. And they're saying, well, they said it might be weeks, but well, we'll see. They might just be exaggerating. But there's a ship that's been grounded right in the middle of the Panama Canal. And that could just completely fuck up trade. That could fuck up the economy in a big way in the States, which people aren't ready for, man. Because it's a similar thing. In the UK, you had or when they switched the rules basically for Brexit to having to check certain things on the borders. Actually, I think it was. I can't remember if it was because of the new variant or if it was because of one of the Brexit rules that just come through. Because there was two different. There was a few things happening. But then what? You had queues for like days going from to a town over. And then you started seeing that, and you go into certain supermarkets, things were missing. Only a few products. But then what? That was just a few days. So it's like if you have trade clogged up, because now with the way everything runs, it's all a global system. Everything relies on everything else. So if one part of it fails, then hey, it's a mess. So it's like if that trade route's down, hey, it's gonna get messy. But hey, that's why I said what it's a time where never before seen things are hitting, and that's really what you had. Isaiah 30:1. Woe to rebellious children, saith Yahweh, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin. The wont to go down into Egypt, and have not asked at my mouth, to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. Yeah. So you got a lot of Jakes that basically looking to and invested in the system. That's basically how they're looking that's just how they move through the society. But they don't realize that's going to be to your detriment. A good example is a Max. With a Maxine, that's how you know. That's how you know. What do you call it? Esau's gonna, what do you call it, man? He's gonna be able to market the mark of the beast, man. The chip. People are gonna accept it, man. Because even with the Max, you've had Jake not getting it, but then what? They've essentially made it the Maxine certificates, where for you to go around and do certain things, you're gonna need to provide proof. And they said at first, oh, it's just for travel. And now in the UK, they're saying, oh, they're basically going to give it to where pubs and bars and restaurants and whatnot can decide how they want to, pubs or restaurants, they can decide how they want to enforce it, and whether they're going to ask for it. So that's something that's going to be pushed out. And that's all this system you believe in. These guys that don't have your best interests at heart, man. They're not thinking about Jake, being able to do well and ending racism and all these different things. Those things are just BS to just clog up airwaves for people to be super invested in, whilst real shit goes on. Because hey, that's what by and large Jake don't realize. time we're in, this is time of judgment, man. It's a time where it's when you go back to Egypt, all Israel was saved out of Egypt, man. But in this present time, it's only going to be what? It's only going to be elect. The one third, 144,000 and one third. That's who's going to get saved out. And hey, these are things that Jake's going to realize, man. Psalm 64 and 1. Hear my voice, O Most High, in my prayer. Preserve my life from fear of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity. Yeah, so this is King David. You know, King David, it says, what, he's able to ascend walls. You know, he was a mighty man of valor. They were saying like Saul's killed his thousands, David's killed his tens of thousands. That means there's a man of war killing tens of thousands of men on the battlefield. But then what? He's inquiring with the Lord, saying, "Yo, preserve my life from the fear of the enemy." Because why? This time we're coming into, it's a time of terror, man. But hey, that's what. It's going to come as a shock. It's going to come as a surprise. Because there's people actually out here thinking Esau's their friend. Actually, I didn't even finish Isaiah 30. Okay, let me read this a bit more. From the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who whet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words. Yeah, in bitter words, man. And that's the chief way Esau's doing that. Is what? His legislation. Because you had the, I think it was Policing Act. Something Policing Act, I believe it was. The new one they passed through over here recently, which basically gives them more power over protesters. And, well, actually, it's just a wide, sweeping amount of powers basically being given to the police. And that got through easy. So that's the climate, that's the time as well. Because you've had, during the lockdown, anti-lockdown protesters all throughout. You've had resistance. So Esau's cranking up the intensity. And that's the thing, is as it is now, hey, you got to rely on Yahweh Hashem Yahushua basically to save you from these times. Because otherwise, if you're looking at it from a carnal means, there's no carnal manner by which you can compete with Esau. This guy's got weapons. Even if you go outside of, like, you know, the M16s, the what do you call it? The rocket launchers, the tanks, the trained army. Even if you go outside all of that, he's got weaponry that haven't been released. There's biological weapons. There's all forms and manners of ways of Esau to be able to take you down, man. This guy could drop an EMP in in the middle of the city. By and large, a lot of people ain't gonna be able to function or do shit. If an EMP popped in London, and I think that's something that happened in in Modern Warfare. Oh yeah, I think it was Modern Warfare 2. I think they had Russia like blow up an EMP over in the States. And it's like, if that was that, that was a fantasy. But if an EMP was actually to pop off in the middle of the city, a lot of people are going to be fucked. You know, people that driving cars. A lot of the newer cars have like computer systems within them. They're just going to swerve. They might drop dead. A lot of if you're underground in any of the any of the London Underground, you're fucked. That shit's done. The train's just gonna. There's many ways by which this man's gonna be able to execute power over the people, man. And people aren't really ready. They don't really want to think about the governments of Esau being their enemy, man. Coming at them with malicious intent, because they realize there is no chance, man. This is what verse 4. That they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. They encourage themselves in an evil manner. They commune of laying snares privately. They say, who shall see them? And yet, by and large, these guys, a lot of things that go on behind closed doors, the general public don't know what the fuck's going on. These guys think that, them conversations they see happening in, what's it called? Those conversations they see happening in, Parliament. That's the decisions being made on the future of the country. They don't realize these things. No, these things are happening behind closed doors, and these are the elites, man. The banking elites. These certain banking families that basically hold true power, man, true control. Because why? That's why you have the quote: "Give me control of a nation's money supply, I care not who makes the laws." And that's something that has been made evident and clear. People have been getting upset just from the way it's been presented on from what they've seen, even with things like Jeffrey Epstein getting out, with certain scandals that get out. They're basically gonna be looking at that and be like, oh wow, this is kind of fucked. But they don't realize that there's even worse, there's even more going on behind the scenes, which you're not privy to. And hey, that's why it's even with the Illuminati news about essentially the Illuminati being exposed, being spoken about. These guys who call themselves the Illuminated ones. By and large, most people don't really think about it. They don't really take it seriously. They don't really see it as a realistic thing that they have to worry about. And even if they do, they're basically just there like, well, what can we do? But that's how destroyed these people are, man. That's why most of the people you've seen over the course of the lockdown, they're just in the mindset of, oh, if you guys just did as you told, the lockdown will be over. But that ain't even true. Because they opened up. It's same in Europe as over here, where they opened up, and it's like it's completely obvious from doing a lockdown. Well, essentially lockdowns don't even work, because all you do is close up everything and basically destroy the economy. Well, they don't work as far as for getting rid of this thing that's going around, but it works for the plans of the elites. Because as far as the plans of the elites, it's being used to grind down the minds of the people. But they don't realize this thing. These are the things that are done in secret. They think it's something, for safety. But what all it's done is increasing fear.